guys, it's me Jess here and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is the second episode of my perfect wedding series. I'm going to share with you how I make a dress for my pre-wedding photo shoot. I didn't plan to make this dress because I didn't think of taking a pre-wedding photo until my dad asked for it, because he wants to have kind of like a wedding photo book to share with everyone in my traditional wedding. Because I want to add a little bit of the casual feeling for the pre-wedding photo, so I decided to make a midi dress. The design of this dress comes with a butterfly sleeve, a deep V-neck with gather bust and open back styles. To be honest, this dress is quite like a tricky one, especially for the open back part of the dress. But I love the design so much that I pushed myself to try it out. And the result is worth all of my trying. That's why I hope you will be patient when trying it out. And let's get started. The first step is making the pattern for this dress. I base on the basic top pattern to make the bodice pattern of the dress. That's why I started making the basic top pattern first. I draw a straight line and a horizontal line first. After that, I draw another straight line at 2.5 centimeters outside the first one. This new straight line will cut the horizontal line at one point. From this cutting point, I mark up 8 cm on the second straight line. It's the half of the neck that I want. Then connect this mark to the cutting point between the horizontal line and the first straight line. From this mark, I also draw a perpendicular line that cut the first straight line at one point. From this cutting point, I connect it to the middle of the slanted line I made before that. Then I draw a curved line from the first mark to the middle of this line to the first cutting point to finish the neckline of the basic pattern. From the second cutting point, I mark up 16 centimeters, which is the half of my shoulder side. From this mark, I draw a perpendicular line with 3.2 cm, which is 1/10 my shoulder side. Then connect the end of this line to the end of the neckline to finish the shoulder line of the pattern. From the second straight line, I draw another straight line at 20.5 centimeters from it. It's a quarter of my bust side, and it's also the position for the end of the armpit line. I continue the perpendicular line from the shoulder to this line. From the cutting point between this line and the horizontal line, I mark up 21 centimeters, which is a quarter of my bust side plus a half centimeter. On the perpendicular line I made before that, I mark at 1/3 of this line first, then connect it to the mask on the bust line I just made before that. After that, I make the curved line in the similar way that I did at the neckline to create the sleeve line for the pattern. From the second straight line, I make another one at 40 cm from it. It's the length from the shoulder to 3 cm above the belly button. From the cutting point between this line and the horizontal line, I mark up 16 cm, which is a quarter of my waist side. Then connect this mark to the end of the sleeve line to create the side line of the pattern. I make it a big curve to finish the side line after that. And we will have the basic back pattern after cutting. I will use this pattern to create the pattern for the dress that I want to make. I copy the pattern first. After that, I make the neck a bit deeper by moving it down 3 cm. From the ending line of the pattern, I draw another line at 7 cm and parallel with it. It's the width of the waistband of the dress that I want. As I want the waistband a bit curved at the back of the dress, I mark down 2 cm from the end of the top waistline. Then connect it to the other end of this line. Based on it, I draw a curved line to finish the top waistband of the back dress. To create the open back part, from one end of the top waistline, I mark at 7 cm, which is a half of the open area of the back that I want. Make sure it's smaller than a half of your back. Then draw a big curved line from this mark to connect to the end of the neckline that I made before. And here are 2 pieces of the back pattern of the dress after cutting, adding 1 cm seam allowance for it after that. However, don't add seam allowance at the middle line of the lower part pattern of the back dress because it will be cut on faux fabric. Moving to the front pattern, I copy the basic back pattern first. After that, I make a new shoulder line 2 cm lower than the current one. Then I redraw the sleeve line a bit for the front pattern. From the top of the neckline, I mark at 20 cm on the middle line. It's the dip of the neck of the dress at the front. It should be at the middle of your chest or right at the end of your breast. Copy the width of the old shoulder line to the new one before connecting it to the mark that you just made before to create the neckline. From the end of the pattern, I draw a line at 7 cm next to it and parallel with it. It's the width of the waistband that I want. It has to be the same with the waistband you made on the back pattern of the dress before. I connect one end of this line on the side line to the end of the neckline to create the under bust line. After that, I make this line a bit curve. And here are 2 pieces of the front pattern. The front of the dress will have the gather fabric at the bust, so I keep working on the bust piece pattern. At the under bust line, I divide it into 4 equal parts by making 3 marks. Then I connect this mark to the middle of the shoulder line. Cut this line to the middle line to open the bust of the pattern. Depending on how much gather fabric you want to create at the bust, you can arrange the distance between them. In my opinion, don't make it too big as it will make the bust look too loose. Then redrawing the new bust piece pattern. And you will have the bust piece pattern after cutting, adding 1 cm seam allowance for them after that. However, don't do it at the middle line of the lower pattern because it will be cut in faux fabric. To make the sleeve pattern, I measure the total width of the sleeve line at the front and the back pattern first. After that, I use the fold paper to make the sleeve pattern. From one end of the folding line, I draw a curved line at 30 cm from it. It's the length of the sleeve from the shoulder to my elbow. Plus 2 cm for seam allowance. From one end of the fold line, I mark down 20.5 cm, which is a quarter of my bust size. Then drawing a curved line to create the sleeve line for the sleeve. Make sure the length of this line will be a half of the total width of the sleeve at the front and the back pattern you checked before, plus 1 cm for seam allowance. From one end of the ending line, I mark up 5 cm, then redraw the curved line to finish the ending line. By doing this way, the sleeve will look a bit longer at the outside compared to the underarm bit. And here's the sleeve pattern after cutting. Moving to the skirt part of the dress, to make the front pattern of the skirt, I draw a straight line at 23 cm from the edge line. It's a quarter of my hip size. Then I keep drawing another line at 80 cm from the edge line. It's the length of the skirt from the belly button to over my knee. It's also the length of the dress that I want. From one end of the edge line, I mark up 16 cm, which is a quarter of my waist size. From one end of the first straight line, I mark up 23 cm, which is a quarter of my hip size. Then I connect two marks together. This line will cut the second straight line at one point, and it will create the side line of the skirt pattern. From one end of the edge line, I mark at 1 cm on the horizontal line. Draw a curved line to connect this mark to the other end of the edge line to create the waistline of the skirt pattern. From the end of the side line, I mark up 2 cm. Then connect this mark to the other end of the second straight line by a curved line to finish the ending line of the skirt pattern. And we will have the front pattern of the skirt after cutting, adding 1 cm for seam allowance after that. However, don't do it at the horizontal line, as it will be in the middle of the front skirt. It means you will cut this pattern in full fabric. To make the back pattern of the skirt part, I draw a horizontal line at 3 cm from the edge line of the paper. Then I apply the front pattern to this line and copy it. On the waistline, I mark in the middle first, then drawing a line parallel with the horizontal line I just drew before. The length of this line will be around 13 cm. From the marks on the waistline, I make two other marks at 1.5 cm outside it. So the width between two marks will be 3 cm, which is the same as the width between the first horizontal line and the edge line that I drew before. Then connect two new marks to the end of the parallel line. It will create a dash at the back of the skirt. And we will have the back pattern of the skirt after cutting. Now, let's start making this thread. I use 3 meters of mixed fabric between chiffon and silk for this thread. For the lining part of the dress, I use the thinner one. Apply on the patterns to the fabric and cut along. I start making the top part of the dress first. Here are 2 pieces of the front and the back part. They are the top pattern of the front and the back. I connect them together at the shoulder line first, doing the same for the lining part. After sewing, I connect the main fabric to the lining fabric at the neckline and the open back line. Before sewing, I add a small elastic at the middle of the neck at the back part. It will be the closing part of the open back dress at the back. Then sewing. Now I'm connecting the sleeve to the sleeve line at the main fabric. After that, I fold the sleeve to make it small, so I can move the lining part over the sleeve to connect to the main fabric part at the sleeve line. When sewing, sew over the first seam you made before. Before upside the top part, I make a few small cuts at the curved parts to make all the seam look smoother. After that, I connect two underarm big lines and two side lines together. At the ending line of the sleeve, I fold the end fabric inside 2 times with a half centimeter each time, and sewing to finish the end of the sleeve. At the bust line, I make a loose seam first, then I create the gather fabric there later. Make sure the gather fabric should be around the bust area, and the final width of the bust line will be the same as the bust line at the lower part of the front top, so you can connect them together later. Making 2 pieces like this. Now I'm connecting 2 pieces I just finished to the lower part of the front top. I connect the main fabric of the lower front part first. Then connect the lining fabric of it later. Make sure the top part will be in the middle of 2 pieces of the lower part, and make the second seam over the first one. So after sewing, you can hide on the seam inside. Moving to the back of the top part, I connect the main fabric of the lower part to the top first, then connect the lining fabric of them later. It's quite similar to the way I did at the front. I will add the zipper at one side line of the dress, so I chose the side I want first, then glue the other after that. And we finish the top part of the dress. Moving to the skirt part of the dress. After cutting, I also copy the dots from the pattern to the fabric, then making the dots after that. Now I'm connecting the front and the back of the skirt together at one side line and keep the other one open. Make sure the side line you keep open will be the same size with the one you kept open at the top part. Making the same for the lining part of the skirt. To make the dress nicer, make the length of the lining part of the skirt around 1 cm shorter than the main fabric. Now I'm connecting the main fabric part of the skirt to the top part and make the first seam. After that, I connect the lining part of the skirt to the top and make the second seam over the first one. Make sure the top part will be in the middle between two pieces of the skirt part. I use an invisible zipper with around 30 cm length to add to the open part of the side line I kept before. After sewing, I connect the rest of the side line of the skirt part together. Remember to do it separately between the main fabric and the lining fabric. At the end of the skirt, I finish the ending line by folding the end fabric inside 2 times with a half centimeter each time and sewing. Remember to do it separately between the main fabric and the lining fabric. The last step is adding the button at the other side of the open back, so you can close the open back of the dress together. And I finished this DIY. Here's my final result. This is such a perfect dress for my wedding photo shoot. The open back is the highlight of this dress. I know it's quite a complicated DIY, but I hope you will try it out. See you next week!